Welcome to our second or third mornings with the mayor, and I appreciate you waking up this morning and joining us. We have a presentation this morning that the town of Danville is very proud of, and it's our CIP and budget. And I think we do budgets really well in the town of Danville. Before we get started, I'd like to go around the room and just do self-introductions. We'll start here with our town manager, Joe Calabrigo.
Oh, great. All right. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Joe Calabrigo, town manager and resident of the town of Danville.
Good morning, I'm Sandra Storer, I'm Robert's wife. I'm his better half. Ties him up and gets him here on time, even though I supposedly can't get here on time. Here he is today, hopefully he will do a good job.
Well, I'm certainly glad you came and joined us this morning.
Steve Overcaster, my wife Lynn is on the planning commission.
Steve Simpkins, police chief.
Marcia Harmon, cottage jewel and local cheerleader for the shop local.
And Discover Danville leads.
Lonnie Aurelius, Discover Danville Association, also with the Museum of San Ramon Valley and a Danville resident.
I'm Jasmine City and I'm the intern for the District 2 Supervisor, Candace Anderson.
I'm June Hand with the Museum of San Ramon Valley.
Thank you for coming. Absolutely.
I'm Greg McGuire. I'm with Hoagland's Solar Electric System Appraisals and Inspections.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Tom Egger. I'm the outgoing president of the San Ramon Valley Rotary Club and also in the Exchange Club, and very heavily involved in the Chamber of Commerce here in Danville. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lynn Eager. I'm the incoming president of the San Ramon Valley Rotary Club. And this is our child, Samson.
I'm Don Reed, longtime resident.
Jean Reed, resident.
Sylvia Coburn, longtime resident.
Ken Mills, I'm on the San Ramon Valley Unified School District Board of Education and representing AT&T here in town.
Good morning, I'm Donna Maxwell. I'm from Supervisor Anderson's office. Good morning, Dustin.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nat Roshanowski, assistant to the town manager for the town of Danville.
Good morning, I'm Steve Lake with the Town of Danville Development Services Department.
Good morning, I'm Del Chandler, current president of the board of Monterey Property Owners Association, incoming president of the Danville Sycamore Valley Rotary Club, a longtime resident in Danville, and just kind of get my fingers in a lot of different things.
Thanks for coming.
Hi, Raj Marwa, short-time resident, been here 2 years.
Good, welcome.
My name is Fred Tabor. I owned property in Danville for 44 years. I took 14 years off and lived at Tahoe, and I came back due to a couple surgeries.
Shelby McNamara, I'm president of the Danville Area Chamber of Commerce and a 1-month resident of Danville.
Now we really have to be nice to you.
That's right.
I'm Jim Edlund. My wife and I own Chrissy Jane Jewelers, and we also chair the Danville Sparkling Fundraising.
Great.
I'm Debbie Voorhees. I'm with Gifty, and we are the company that powers the Danville gift voucher.
Barbara Bowman, Danville Chamber Ambassador, and Jay Rockman Filter.
Thank you.
Bob Worthington, completely overwhelmed.
You're welcome. And thank you for joining us this morning. And like I say, we're going to highlight some of our 2014-15 operating budget and our capital improvement program. We're going to talk about some downtown updates, upcoming events, some of the things that we think are important here in Danville. And we're going to hear from our partners in the community here. And we'll hear from our new intern from Candace's office if she has an update. The first thing we'll talk about is our operating budget and capital improvement plan. So in the town of Danville, you ask yourself, what is important to this town council and to this community? And the very first thing that comes to mind is this man right here and public safety. We are ranked number 6 in California. There's 482 cities, and we're the 6th safest city, working on number 5. And at this point in time, we've sent a message to the bad guys in this community When Steve Simpkins did his interview with us, his thought was, every morning I wake up and I come to work, we're putting a force field around Danville and we're keeping the bad guys out. We sent that message to the bad guys. You come to Danville with the intention of doing us harm, we will arrest you. And that's what makes us a very safe community. The second thing on our list is the way this community looks, how it's perceived by the outside world, and everything that we talk about in this town is special to Danville. We're a community that, unlike many others in the area, and there's 19 cities in Contra Costa County, we're a pretty unique community to live in. We should be very proud of this community because this town manager, the town staff, this town council takes this responsibility very, very seriously. If you look at those first two categories, public safety and community appearance, that's community appearance basically is maintenance. How we maintain this town. That's 50% of our budget right there. Those two items alone. That's how important it is to us. Our vision in this town goes through many different iterations during the year. We want our hillsides to be protected. We have 42% open space. We live on 12,000 acres. 42% of it is deed restricted open space and protected into perpetuity, cannot be built on. The rest of it, there's 15,000 homes in Danville, and we have 154 miles of roadways. The appropriate development standards, careful planning, consideration to our heritage resources, our history, and we want to make sure that we are compatible with the community that we live in. Economic vitality and growth, proactive regional presence. I gotta tell you, those two things right there, we're out there regionally in this community. We sit on a number of different boards. We're liaisons to a number of different committees. We actually take this job very serious, and when we go out to the community, we represent Danville the best we know how. And that is, a very proactive approach to regional government. Community celebrations, to be a successful community takes a number of different components. You need a good library system, you need a good school system, you need a good community system, a good support system from the town government, good support system from our staff, and you also need events. 4th of July parade is coming up. We bring 45,000 people to Danville on the 4th of July parade. The most impressive event I think we have is that parade, and if you ever get a chance to go there the night before and just look at 15 to 20,000 chairs lined up in the street, it's the most amazing thing you'll ever see. Now I'll give you, it's hard to maybe park there because your car door will open up and you might hit a chair or something, because I've heard that complaint in the past. But it's absolutely impressive to know what we do in this town and the efforts that we take to make this a wonderful community to live in. Our fiscal strategy is real simple. We take in money and we actually put some of it in a savings account. It's the strangest way of doing business. I never want to go ho-hum to you and you say, well, we balanced our budget again. We balanced our budget again. I mean, how many communities can say that? We don't make the front paper because for all the wrong reasons. We actually mind our P's and Q's and we do our job. When a dollar comes in, we save 25 cents. We have an operating budget that actually is, we take in money and we spend less than we take in. It's a simple concept, but not everybody gets this in this community. We don't have credit card debt. We don't leverage. We don't take on debt. This building right here, we saved $8.2 million, and then we paid somebody to build it. We don't have that kind of leverage that a lot of communities do. We don't build our budgets on big numbers. We build them on average numbers. We don't build them on great times, we build them on average times. And that way, when the economy does fall, we're not caught thinking, oh my God, how are we gonna pay our bills? We are able to pay our bills for a lot of reasons, and that's one of them. We actually have a rainy day account. Your mom probably told you when you got your first job, if you make $1, try to save a part of it. And that's what we do. We have a reserve. You gotta look at that number right there. Current operating reserve. We have $11 million. It's twice what we need, but it's an important number. 40% basically in reserves. There's hardly a community in this world that can boast those kind of numbers. And a lot of it has to do with this man sitting right here in the front of the room, Joe Calabrigo. And thank you for your fiscal stewardship. We actually, and we'll talk about it in a minute, we have a number of capital improvement projects that we fund. and it takes a while to fund. Nothing happens overnight in any town government, but some things happen pretty quickly in this town. And one of them is some of the projects that you see going on in the downtown, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit. We're one of 3 cities of 482, 3, that have no unfunded liabilities. I'm sure you hear a lot about that in the paper, these large numbers of communities that cannot pay their bills. We have never done that. Probably won't do that in the near future. And right now, we actually have other post-employment benefits and no unfunded liabilities. If I stop the conversation right there and put a period at the end of that sentence, we could be very proud of how we do business in Danville. Some highlights. We bring in $30.7 million, $31 million. That's up about 3.5%. We have strong property taxes, and they've come back from the last 6 years where they dipped between, you pick a number, between 12 and 15% is probably what it really went down. Our sales tax revenue are stable again. And I'm gonna tell you that this number is a little deceiving because as a town, as this community, as a town council and the staff, we understand a couple of things. One is the Costco's of the world, the Beverages and More, the restaurants, the Lunardi's are always gonna do well. They are a go-to destination and they are high sales tax revenue generating companies. What this town is probably the most concerned with are the smaller businesses, the ones that are the family-owned, single proprietors, the entrepreneurs that have come to Danville. And we're trying to figure out what we can do, and we're working with the chamber. This is probably one of the best relationships we've ever had in this town's history because of Shelby McNamara. She has done an amazing job, Shelby, thank you. She single-handedly will probably help us the most in gaining the information that we need to help make the decisions to help these small businesses. Marcia Harmon is a classic example, somebody who runs Discover Danville almost by herself with Lonnie, and then on top of that, runs her own business. And that's hard in itself because she wears a lot of hats during the day. She's the payroll manager, she's the HR department, she's everything in that business. And we're trying to encourage people to shop local and shop downtown, and take the time to come down here. You're gonna end up eating in a restaurant at the end of that night, but shop before you get to that restaurant. That's my short message there. We have a building and planning department that is booming. So I've just got to tell you, we think the economy is starting to come back a little bit. Those of you who lived through 6 years of probably the most difficult economy that this world has ever seen next to the Depression will probably say, conservatively, we're all a little bit smarter today than we were maybe 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. We're doing business in a different way. We've cut our overhead costs, we've got rid of the non-essentials, and we're back down to brass tacks. So we're a smarter community, we're smarter in business, and we think the economy is starting to come back a little bit, and that's good news. We spend just about $30 million, so naturally we spend less than we take in, which is a good way of doing business. This is what the summary looks like. As you can see, the maintenance and police take up half of that chart, which is about 50% of what we spend in this community on the things that are important to us in this community. And then you work your way around the pie, and we've got community development, development services, general government, that's our administration of how this town is run, recreational services, and then we have a successor agency that's sort of slowly fading away. This next chart is an interesting one. And we typically do not make comparisons with other communities because Danville is unique to itself. It's a very difficult community to compare with a lot of other communities. We have a wonderful downtown, wonderful community. We live next door to people that are probably good neighbors. I moved here for the school systems. A lot of us probably moved here for schools. And then you get to know your neighbors, and then you get to know the downtown, and then you sort of want to help maybe help run the town a little bit, and then one day you become mayor. So that's how my little, there might be a couple of little things in between, but there's not much else to it. Look at that number. That number is what we spend per citizen. And we compare that number with those in Santa Moan, Walnut Creek, Livermore, Dublin, and Pleasanton. Those are real numbers there. We do a lot more with less. We don't have the budgets that the folks on that side of the chart have. they're all in the 60s to $90 million. We're at 30. You know, we have street sweepers. We take care of our sidewalks. We take care of our downtowns. We take care of the roadways. We spend money in ourselves where it matters the most. And we listen. If there's a problem, we have this wonderful new app, and we'll talk about it at the end of the presentation, called Danville Connect. You could actually go downtown, see something you don't like, take a picture of it, the GPS coordinates, send it to our maintenance department. They contact you within 24 hours, and they come out and fix the problem. Or they'll tell you what they're going to do to fix the problem. If this is if I just stopped at this chart right here, this is a pretty amazing community. And once again, this has a lot to do with fiscal responsibility and a little bit of a conservative nature, more of a one brick at a time sort of desire to make things happen, but responsibly. Capital improvements, 37 projects totaling $8.1 million. And if you carry over the $5 million or so on projects that we haven't completed, that's about a $13 million budget that we're going to spend in this community on 18 square miles to make Danville a better place to live. $3 million that we invest in ourselves on pavement management. This is the second year we've done this. We were able to find from a number of different little pots that had extra money. We moved it over to pavement management because there's a number that we need to maintain to make this community successful, and it's 70. Thanks to Steve Lake in the back of the room, that man right there has figured out how to make the roadways that you drive on look the way they do. Every road, there's 154 miles of roadway, and we're gonna touch literally every mile of that roadway. And when we're done touching it, we'll start all over and do it all over again. $3 million, there's not hardly a community that I'm aware of that can say they spend $3 million. Once again, I'm not great on comparisons, but if you look at Orinda and that sort of the La Morinda area, Orinda, Moraga, they're not spending the same amount of money in their roadways, and it shows. And the reasons our roadways look the way they do is because we take the time to assess them on a yearly basis and try to figure out how to make them better. We are currently at 72 pavement condition index, very, very important index. If this number drops below 70, in theory, our roadways become a liability instead of an asset. So it's a really important number to us. We've got some projects of the 37. There's 3 noteworthy projects. For those of you who live in Crow Canyon Country Club, we've been promising you a sound wall. You finally got it. It took us a little bit of time. We had the money saved, and we just needed to figure out how to implement it, and it's actually being installed currently, and it's gonna look wonderful. And it's on the Crow Canyon roadside, and there's 3 subdivisions that the sound walls will be built at. If you go out there today, you'll see that we are working diligently to complete that project. Osage Park, basically there's 6 phases. We have been working, trying to figure out what to do with that park. It's actually a town treasure. It's located inside of a subdivision. We're trying to be very mindful of the neighbors because you want to, every park that we have is overutilized. We have so many sports events at those parks. We're trying to figure out what to do next at Osage, and we decided that we are going to do a picnic and play area because that our youth in this community seem to be getting younger and younger, and in my neighborhood, I have more strollers going around in our neighborhood. It's wonderful to see. Where my wife and I started, this next generation of people have come behind us, which is wonderful. We're empty nesters now, thank God. We don't want them to come back. We love you guys, but we don't want you to come back. We listened, bocce ball. I was there last night, jam-packed, and we needed to build more. And we have a number of council members, Mike Doyle included, that says, before I go, I'm building more bocce ball courts at Sycamore, and we're there. We're funding it. We think it's going to be done sometime next year, and we are going to be, again, we have a waiting list of like 390 people on this waiting list, which is amazing. Downtown projects. On my very first planning commission application, they asked me, what should we do in this town to improve the downtown? And my application said that we should look at the North Hearts area and try to figure out how to remodel that area and make it look a little bit nicer. It doesn't fit in with Old Town, and it just seems to be a little bit in the dilapidation mode. Well, we have a couple of projects that we're proud of, and Oops, sorry about that. We'll start with the North Hearts area. We are in the process to start that project. We think we'll start it this year, we'll end it sometime summer of 2015. It'll be new sidewalks, brick banding, diagonal parking, medians, landscaping. We're trying to help the businesses there, help their facades a little bit. We want from the high school literally to the livery to look like Old Town. And we're trying to figure out how to make Front Street, Hearts, and Railroad all pedestrian-friendly areas. We want people to come downtown and be able to go from retail to retail, that continuity of retail, and that's really important to us. We have this wayfinding signage. We wanted to help the businesses figure out how to get parking. You know, we have a number of parking in this area. We did a parking study plan a number of years ago, and it said that, in essence, we have plenty of parking unless we have a very busy downtown street closure. If you need to park in front of the business you want to go to, we probably have a parking problem. If you're okay with walking maybe a block and a half, there isn't a parking problem. So we are continually trying to focus people, those from outside of the area, into downtown Danville, to businesses, and if we could put up signs that take you downtown, we think we're doing our job. Railroad, this project right here, that picture is looking west on Prospect. You'll see the Vets Hall in the background. We're undergrounding the utilities on Railroad Avenue. And you know, this is all part of downtown beautification. We're spending the money to do something that's really, we think, is important. And these are our public projects here. There's 37 of them, but these are 3 of the highlights. Private, finally the Danville Hotel we have walls up. We couldn't be more pleased, honestly. We have waited for so many years for that project to take place. What we had was a deteriorating, you know, it was an old west facade that was really pretty cool in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Probably started to deteriorate in the late 90s and the 2000s, and we decided naturally we have the Baldacci family to thank for this, but they purchased the property, Danville residents, and we're taking the Danville Hotel, saving the Danville Hotel and the Macaulay House, naturally 2 historical treasures, and we're building retail on the ground floor, right up to the street on Hearts, Prospect, Railroad, and the street that's called Short Street. And we're building condominiums where people will be able to live in downtown Danville again. There's 16 condominiums there. The Austin Root House on the corner of Linda Mesa and Railroad Avenue. Once again, we'll have 3 condominiums there with retail down below. So we want this concept that you can shop downtown and live downtown, and we think that's a very romantic feel to the town of Danville.
Robert, excuse me.
Yes.
Is that where Sideboards went?
It's the Sideboards is the old Danville Hotel. So Sideboards is next door.
Next door.
Oh, okay.
You're right next door to Sideboards. And when they moved, they brought all their folks with them. They're a go-to destination. They have an iconic following. They are actually on Railroad Avenue, and now people are walking up and down Railroad Avenue, which is great.
And no sign out front is amazing.
And they still find the
It's
place.
amazing.
He doesn't have to.
No.
Just the pig.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, we have the state of California is coming out with a plastic bag ban. A lot of us on this town council believe that getting rid of plastic bags, the ones you see at Safeway and Lucky's that have the handles. I'm not talking about produce bags. I'm not talking about things that don't have handles. It's a handle bag that we're concerned about. SB 270 is legislation that will probably get approved. And what we decided to do as a town council in a town is get ahead of the legislation so we could write our own ordinance that sort of fits what we're all about in the town of Danville. There's some things the state had in their ordinance that we thought would work. There's some, Walnut Creek put an ordinance together. We've looked at some of their language, and we're creating language that actually fits what the town of Danville is all about. We have some study sessions coming up, and these dates are important. July 9th is at 2 p.m., July 15th is 8:30, and the July 16th is at 7 o'clock at night, so we can cover the whole day in case you have to work. We want your input on this. We think it's important to get rid of plastic bags in the landfill, and we have information in the back of the room, I believe, on plastic bags and our thoughts on how this should proceed forward in the future. What we want to do is You either accept what the state, you either accept what the state approves as far as legislation, or you write your own that fits your community, and we've opted to write our own on this. It's exciting because if you're looking at doing the right thing in the environment, this is where you start. We have electric cars in this town, we have solar panels on everything in this town owned literally, where we save $250,000 a year. If you were part of a group that didn't love the science of any of this, you still can't refute $250,000 savings and how important that is to a community when you're on a $30 million budget. These events, there's 2 pages of these events, so I'm not going to go through each one of these, but I'm sure there isn't a person in this room that hasn't touched one of these events. You know, the outdoor, you talk about the toddlers, the events for toddlers, the teens, the young adults, the adults, the seniors. You know, we've touched literally every category that you can imagine. I believe we have 700 programs in our activity guide that's going to appeal to somebody. 4th of July parade, we've already talked about that. That's the most amazing event. And please, go out there the night before and take a look at those chairs. Family fun night, you know, music in the park, the hot summer car show. I mean, we have the streets loaded with cars. You know, some of our businesses love that event, some don't. I mean, the restaurants are always doing well. What we did a number of years ago is we have 2 car shows now, and we have 2 street closures. There used to be 4 car shows. We took 2 away and made the street closures an important part of so that our businesses could be highlighted. And you know, we're getting really positive feedback over the years that was probably a very good decision to make. Music in the park, those always bring a number of folks out. You know, look at the events coming up in July and August. It is amazing what we do here. Henry Henry is the guy that has put all this together. We had a woman named Michelle Lacey that ran a program forever, and when she left, we thought, oh my God, how are we going to fill these shoes? And not only did we fill them, we did really well with Henry. So if there's a question here, you can reference our website. It's important that you know that we have this, the Danville Connect app. I mean, I'm hoping everybody has that on their phone. Really an amazing app. It connects you to the town council, to our website, to Danville Today. If you have complaints or compliments, you can call the town council. You can email us, and we'll respond immediately. Our cell numbers are there. We answer our cell phones. We want to make sure that we're accessible and we can actually answer any of your questions. And if we can't, believe me, we'll find somebody who can answer your question. And that ends my presentation. If we have any questions? Yes, sir.
The north side of Parks, I know you're going to be doing the road things. What pressure, I'll just be kind of honest, what pressure can you apply to the owners of the buildings to make them look something like Danville?
Well, let me tell you how we started the conversation. We bought the Connie Sushi building because we needed to jumpstart that area downtown. When we had redevelopment money, we actually purchased that building with the intentions of starting the right-of-way easements in there. And we purchased the right-of-way easements all the way down the street to Linda Mesa. The short answer is, we've done business promotions. We've actually given money to businesses to paint their facades. Certainly a lot of social media money specifically to paint the exterior. There's not a whole bunch you can do if somebody just absolutely refuses to remodel their buildings. They have sold a couple of the buildings down there. So we're anxious to see the new owners, and sometimes when you get new blood down there, those properties were owned, I'm going to go back to probably the 50s or early 60s, and with the same ownership. So we understand the frustration, and believe me, we get this. Steve Lake?
Yeah, I'd like to add, that project is near and dear to my heart. I've worked on it for a long time. What we are going to do...
Did you have silver hair at that time?
About like you.
Thank you.
Well, we have a plan for that. North Hearts includes a number of things that are designed to increase the business potential of that particular location. We have new curb gutter sidewalk, brick band, street trees, street lights, brand new pavement, a wider road, diagonal parking. All those things are going to be built over the next 6 or 8 months. to improve that end of our beautiful little town.
Right. Thank you.
Joe Calabrigo?
And I would just add that apart from trying to provide for some incentives through zoning, development standards, and so on, which we've attempted to do, short of going out and actually buying some of those properties, which we had attempted to do in prior years when we still had our redevelopment agency, we're all in the same boat. We're doing what we feel we can do to try to encourage that redevelopment, but absent having the ownership of the property and not wanting to go out and condemn property for that purpose, we are somewhat dependent upon the owners being motivated to do something. So, you know, we continue to look for ways of doing that, but none of us would be honest if we wouldn't say that it's been a frustrating process, because, you know, we've had situations where we've gone out and attempted to purchase those properties, and they just flat out refused to sell them to a government agency. So, you know, we own the one property. We're hoping that we'll be able to put something together with that property on down through mid-block, because you've got some common ownerships there with Danville Square across the street, and you know, we're going to continue to work at it.
Yeah, our homeowner association, lucky I get all the calls. A lot of complaints about that area.
Yeah, no, we feel the frustration, and that's why we've actually tried our best to put money downtown, and we're going to start the remodel process. We think once we jumpstart that downtown with the streets and the landscaping, the medians, the brick banding, that might encourage some facade cleanup on that side of the street. So on both sides actually, but specifically on one side. So we feel the same frustration as you feel.
Yeah, some of our homeowners said they're going to refuse to buy from any of the retailers.
That falls into my ouch category, but thank you for that. Yes, sir.
Robert, the area he's talking about, in the cleaners area, that used to be the gas station, you know, they just refused to do it. I went in there and talked to her, and she said she won't spend a nickel landscaping. And so, you know, why don't you give the property owners some heat? That's where you gotta go. And they can just jack the rent up on her.
Yeah, I wish it'd be just as simple enough to knock on the door and say, hey, I want
Well,
to paint your building.
but if you put enough heat on, you know, the property owner, they'll bet.
Maybe it'd be a nice project for Rotary to take on, and maybe encourage the homeowners that they'll paint it on a weekend and no Saturday and Sunday program.
We got like 3 clubs here, so.
Yeah.
Might be a nice project for the incoming president. Where is she sitting at?
Lynn. Too much heat.
But no, once again, we understand, but we'll do what we can with the money that we have. We'll actually put it into that infrastructure. We've got some utilities that still need to be upgraded down there, and then we'll start the street repairs. When at the end of the day, when you see what we've done, hopefully that will help encourage some of those businesses to do the same.
Thank you for keeping an eye on all that.
Believe me, it's heavily on our radar. Fred, did you want to ask your question about Elworthy East? Or do you want me to answer it?
No,
I'll give you my short answer.
I'd like to ask my question.
All right.
And I
Go ahead, sir.
appreciate your presentation, very enlightening, since I've been away for quite a while. My concern is about the Ellsworth property east, that you will try and do the same smoke and mirrors kind of zoning that you did. I understand that project is still zoned agriculture, that the seller and the developer both reneged on the promises that they made to do an equestrian center and to have some open space. And since I own property in Crow Canyon and I live at one of the proposed streets that would be an entrance for that other property, I went to the city planning and I wasn't pleased, but I could deal with 20 houses up there. But 20 houses, $6 million, it just didn't work out for them. So I've never heard of the kind of zoning that was done where it's a new map that I certainly don't understand, where you take rights from over here and you bring them to another piece of property.
First of all, I appreciate the question. There's no such thing as smoke and mirrors in Danville, so let me just begin by telling you that not only is this town probably the most transparent community you'll ever live in, and welcome back to Danville. I don't know what you've heard, but I can certainly tell you what the town of Danville knows, and we have our town manager here and our director of engineering that can probably give us additional information. There's no such thing as moving zoning from one property to another. That is absolutely not true.
Then how
What
they
we
get so
have is a
many
piece of
units on a
property
small
that
piece of
is,
property?
Fred, what we have is a piece of property that is 100 acres that has never had an application on it since time started. We have never seen an application on that property. The property he's talking about is Elworthy East, and it's behind Crow Canyon Country Club. Borica, Como, and Sherborne Hills are the access points to that property to some degree. There's 100 acres there. We've heard that the property is under option, and we heard that the property got sold. We can confirm neither one of those. I can say to you that the property does have building rights. It's agricultural, and as many of you know, anything that's agricultural has an underlying zoning, whether it's A2 or A4. In this particular case, I believe it's A2, which means you could build one home on 5 acres. In theory, you could build up to 20 homes by zoning right. That property is very difficult, very steep, a lot of landslide issues there. It's a special concern site in our general plan. It's been on our radar for many, many years. As far as this man will tell you, he's been here for 30 years. Fred, 30 years, we have never seen an application on this. Not to say somebody couldn't come up in the near future here. We just haven't heard about it. Everything that we've heard about this project actually come from, the people you're talking to, and a lot of it is misinformation. So I would encourage you at the end of this meeting to sit down with Joe or Steve and actually get a whole different perspective on this property. But I will say to you, somebody could buy it, somebody could build on it, and I don't want to throw numbers around because somebody actually has to put an application in, but it is zoned A2. Joe, do you want to add something?
Fred, I'm ripping the back off the chair here. Thank you. First of all, there was a meeting that was held last week that was ostensibly to talk about this property, although I understand that wasn't really what the meeting was about. I attended the meeting in the hopes of being able to answer questions like this one and provide information. When I got there, there's a first time for everything in your career. I've been here almost 30 years. When I got there, the people that were having the meeting asked me to leave because they didn't want to hear what the town had to say. So I'll preface what I'm saying by saying that. The mayor's absolutely correct. In Danville, all privately owned property and property owners have some right to do something with their property. I think we all understand fundamental property rights. Elworthy is an example of a piece of property that if you look at our general plan, it says right in the general plan that it has limited development potential. And when the mayor talks about the zoning A2, 1 per 5 acres, if you did the math, you would get to 20, but then you would say by the time we subtract out major ridge lines and do other things because of the scenic features of the site, if and when something happens there, it'll be less than that. So when we talk about plan unit or P1 zoning, the issue is, given that there are development rights that accrue to the property, how do you want to see that happen? Do you want to see that spread out all over the 100 acres, or do you want to see that development potential realized in the least sensitive, least visible portions of the site? That's been an approach that we have followed on several developments in the community over the years, where the result has been some limited amount of residential development and large amounts of property that are then set aside as permanent open space, deed restricted. But I think the point to make here is no development application on this property. In Danville, one of the things that the mayor didn't say is anybody who comes in and submits a development application, they better not think that they're gonna come in and spend a period of weeks or months on this. There's gonna be, if and when that happened, extensive review, probably a full environmental impact report, lots and lots of notification and opportunities for neighbors and concerned residents to provide input and shape whatever might happen there. Okay, so it would be a very deliberate process and not something that's going to happen without everybody knowing that.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not trying to take away anybody's rights, but our concern is they'll come in and they'll manipulate it and they'll build high density.
Not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen.
Okay, can
It
you
will
sign
never
my
happen.
paper then?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I mean.
I was at that meeting, that's.
Yeah. I mean, high density, we know what high density is, right? Everybody knows what high density is.
High density is what they did on the west property.
Well, that's actually small single-family lots. I don't believe that that anything like that is what would happen on the Elworthy property. I think on the Elworthy property, if and when it were to develop, what you would see and what we would insist upon would be single-family residential development that would mirror what is in that neighborhood already. So if you look at projects, recent projects, Weber, the Summerhill project that was approved last year, you know, the Summerhill project, those are 3,500 square foot houses on third to half acre lots.
Yeah, well, you heard
Okay.
me say I don't have a problem with
Yeah.
that. And going back a little more than 30 years, at one time, Ife Mudd wanted to build a storage facility up there.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that land is unstable or unbuildable.
Yep.
And that's gonna factor in.
And that's why it's a special concern area in our general plan, because, you know, let's put it this way. Any piece of property that's left in Danville, you've heard us say before, Danville is a largely built-out community. Pieces like the Elworthy East property that may from time to time arouse the interest of development interests. These are properties that for the past how many years, they've never been considered economically viable to develop. Now, you know, you can build a single family home on a third of an acre lot and sell it for $2 million. You know, now you're beginning to talk about having development that is economically viable. But previously, folks didn't give these properties another look. It's just that now they're the only properties that are left in Danville.
Well, I believe in infill.
It's
you know, and I know you're up against low-income housing and a lot of other restrictions.
I'm gonna address that as well, Fred. Low-income housing perception. In Danville, okay, and I'll make some comparisons here. Walnut Creek, and don't hold me to the exact numbers, Walnut Creek has 2,600 Section 8 applicants in their town. Concord, probably about 5,100. You go over to Hayward, probably about 4,600. You know, San Ramon, probably about 1,100. In Danville, they won't give us the exact number, but it's between 6 and 18. Right? I own a senior building in town. 4 of them, we hang our hat on number 8. 4 of the 8 live in my building and they're seniors. We do not have Section 8 in this town, and the reason is the Housing Authority has not allowed Danville to participate in the program because our rents are too high. We don't have it. Do you know where our affordable housing projects are? We have 100 units of affordable housing in this town, and I'm sure many of you don't have any idea where it's at, because it looks like residential homes and not this word, this stack and pack nonsense. It's just not what Danville's all about. You want stack and pack, you can certainly go to Dublin, you can certainly go to surrounding jurisdiction. They build projects that are 3 to 6 stories. They're square buildings. It's not what Danville's all about. So naturally, as the mayor of Danville, I take a little offense to anybody who says we're bringing those people into town. Frankly, those people are our kids, our grandkids, and our parents. My mom can't afford to live in Danville, and I'd like to honestly figure out a way to get her to Danville, okay? And when we look at affordable housing, we look at it from a number of different perspectives. It's our secondary units. We built 90 of them in the last 7 or 8 years or so, and those secondary units are the reasons we were able to satisfy our housing element numbers, which we're mandated by the state to have. We have to come up with 583 moderate, low, and very low, and the very low is secondary units. So with that, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What's happening to the property right on Camino Ramon across from Costco?
Yes.
Acres and acres.
My understanding is, and maybe Joel will chime in, but it's still in a lawsuit. Sid Corey is a participant. East Bay Regional Parks is a participant. There's, Sid has an option on the first 7 of the 17. The next 10 is what they're arguing about. And at this point, right now, we have not seen any applications in the recent history. We're waiting for the dust to settle. I did notice that there were some signs that went up on the property just recently that said it's land banked. So I'm thinking East Bay Regional Parks did that, not sure. Joe, you might want to add a little bit more to that.
Well, the only.
We don't have a lot of information on this yet.
Well, we either, you know, in fits and starts, don't have a lot of information or really have more than what we can use. This piece of property, Mr. Burrell passed away in 2009. He somewhat simultaneously optioned the property to a developer, and then in his estate, left the property to one of 3 public agencies in order: East Bay Regional Park District, the City of San Ramon, and the Town of Danville. So for the past 5 years, the property has been winding its way through various litigation to determine once and for all with whom the ownership should rest. There is obviously the developer who has paid good option money during that period of time, who asserts that he's entitled to own the property, and the Park District, who asserts that if they meet the stipulations that are in the estate plan, that they should be entitled to own the property. And in fact, that is in court right now, and they're arguing back and forth, and will be continuing to argue week after next, because I may get to go and testify in that case. So, so that's what's going on. We're very anxious to see something happen with it. The northern 7 acres of that property is zoned for what is for us higher density residential, multifamily homes. The southern 10 acres is general planned for general commercial, much the same as what you see on the other side of the street where Marshall's and Costco, Boswell's is.
Is that inside the Danville city limits?
Yes, it is, yes.
Astoria is the boundary. And I'll mention 2 other projects that certainly is I think important to talk about, and one of them is, Fred, as you mentioned, is the property on San Ramon Valley Boulevard. Don't hold me to these numbers, but I believe there's 410 acres there or so. We actually could have taken the 94 homes that were approved and spread them throughout the hillsides, because if it's 1 home per 5 acres and there's 410 acres, you do the math, and there's a lot of homes that we could put on the hillside. We protect the hillsides in Danville, and that's why we do a density transfer, and maybe that's what you were talking about.
Yes.
We take what you could build on a piece of property, in this case 94, let's say 94 homes, and we transfer it down to the flatlands. So in this particular case, of the 410 acres, don't hold me to that exact number, we built on 12. And the rest of it is deed restricted into perpetuity as open space. We have an equestrian trails up there. We have places where people can actually bring horses. We're tying the ridge lines together with trails. And we're proud of the way we do business in Danville, because we just don't build on our hillsides like they do in San Leandro and Hayward. We protect our hillside. But I'm a property rights guy, so that means that if you own a piece of property, you have a right to propose something. It goes through a very arduous process. I mean, between the EIR and Design Review Board and Planning Commission and Heritage Resource if it's important, and then naturally Town Council, we just don't rubber stamp things here in Danville. And that's sort of the reasons that Danville looks the way it does. And Summerhill is, I'm gonna call it 500 acres, could be a little bit less. We're building on 37 of the 500, and the rest of it is deed restricted once again into perpetuity as open space. We'll be able to walk on property that's been owned by one family since the late 1800s, and we'll have trails, biking, walking, we'll be able to connect to the Sycamore Valley. So we really are proud of the way we're doing business, and these 5 people up here have probably have one of the best relationships that we've ever had in this town. We take this town seriously, we're passionate. My wife probably gets tired of me talking about about my wonderful ideas, and hey, how about if we do this, and then I run it past Joe, and I figure out where all the fatal flaws are. And we try to constantly do the right thing in the town of Danville, and each of us are accessible. I know we're running out of time here. We spent a little more time talking about some projects, but we're proud of what we do here in Danville, and we want you to know that you can pick up a phone. We're a phone call away, and we'll answer your questions. We'll get information to you, and I'm really proud of being a part of this town. Any more questions? Does anybody like to fill us in on maybe Candace Anderson's office? Is there any updates? All right. Is there anybody here from one of our elected officials that have updates? Right? Is there any questions? Ken Mintz, school board.
I can just give a very, very brief update. This past week, the school board also approved our budget for this year. When you look at scope, we're talking about a Danville budget about $30 million. Our budget for the school district, 31,000 students, over $260 million. And we're holding about a 10% reserve. Kind of interesting, in just last month, as the budgets were being worked out at the state level, some issues went forward about us not being able to hold on to that kind of reserve, 10%. That's going to be a debatable argument over this next year about what kind of reserve. We also would like to have money in the bank for economic uncertainties, and the state is kind of pushing back on us in terms of what we're allowed to do in that front. Our budget included what's known as the local control accountability plan, which for the first time, we spent a lot of time going out to the public to determine what our schools should be focusing on. And that involved a number of community forums over the last several months, and our budget actually reflects a lot of that input. Graduations occurred a couple of weeks ago. We have some of the highest graduation rates in the state of California, lowest dropout rate in the state of California, and probably about 96% of our kids are going on to college, from community college to some of the top name schools in the country. So a lot for our community to be proud of. Now that we've moved into summer mode, we have a number of projects going on our facility side. And we just asked, particularly up at Monte Vista, we're redoing the parking lot. If you haven't seen that lately, that's going to be a summertime project. We're hoping to have that all complete by the end of the summer in time for school to start. Unfortunately, that means getting up to the pool at Monte Vista and anything around that site a little more difficult this summer. Parking is still across the street, but we just ask you to be really careful when you're at that site. And then finally at Seminole Valley High, we're in the process of replacing the bleachers at that school. So a number of different things going on. A lot of different school sites are starting to see the impact of the facilities bond that the community was very supportive in passing a couple of years ago. We've been working through designs. Now you're starting to see the actual work come to play. So I'll leave it at that.
I grew up in Hayward, and at my high school, 480 kids or so, 26 went to college. And I was one of 26. In the San Ramon Valley Unified School District, we have 95% that graduate to college. It's amazing. We live in an unbelievable community. Are there any other questions? Thank you very much for coming today. I know that everybody has busy mornings, and thank you for taking the time to join us. We'll stay afterwards. If there's questions that you'd like to ask us that we can answer, we'll be happy to help you. Fred, I would encourage you to stay here and talk to Joe and to Steve and get some information. I will not tolerate anybody coming to any meeting and telling me that there's smoke and mirrors, because that's not the way the town of Danville is run, and I take offense to it. This is the most transparent community I think you'll ever see and work with, and I encourage you to work with us. So with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.